Blutbad.
Hello and welcome back to another behind the scenes toy photography video. This week I'm going to show you how to use a foam packing insert to create scenery. I call this shot Rebel Activity. I'll also show you my editing process. I'm currently on my 4th or 5th rewatch of Star Wars Rebels and I just love all of these characters so much. A lot of Star Wars leans into the found family trope, but I think Rebels pulls it off better than any of the other stories. Of course, these characters weren't just forming a sense of community and belonging, they were also sticking it to the fascist pigs in the Empire by stealing their goods and redistributing them to people in need. For my recreation of one of these heists, I decided to show Kanan, Ezra, and Chopper stealing supplies from a spaceport. My backdrop began as a simple foam packing insert from a computer monitor, but I enhanced it with some vinyl decals I cut using my brand new Cricut and some 3D printed door control panels. After filling out the scene with some 3D printed crates and this lantern flashlight that looks like a barrel, I posed and placed my toys. There are a lot of great Stormtrooper action figures to choose from, but these new Imperial Remnant Troopers from the Black Series are one of the best I've come across. The variety in accessories lends itself to army building, and the built-in weathering saves a lot of trouble for people like me who aren't handy with a paintbrush. Once the scene was set, I finalized my lighting. I had a large diffused light on the left and a small red spotlight on the right to recreate the blaster glow. Here's my starting image. As you can see, it was pretty dark. I exposed for the highlights and midtones, knowing I could lighten up the shadows in the editing process. As always, I began with some adjustment layers for levels and color balance before using the healing brush tool and content aware fill to remove all the articulation joints on my toys. I also used the burn tool to give some more definition to the edges of my foam insert. Next, I did some experimentation with custom Photoshop brushes to add some muzzle flash to Kanan's blaster. It was very much a trial and error operation, but eventually I found one that I was happy with. After that, I used the pen tool to draw in some blaster bolts. First I created a selection, then I feathered the edges by a few pixels, then I used the brush tool to fill it in, and then I applied some motion blur. Again, this was a bit of trial and error, as the layer effects can be a little finicky. Finally, I did a quick bit of dodging to brighten up the skin tones of my subjects, making their faces more visible. So once again, here's my starting image. And here's where I ended up. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and make sure to check me out on Instagram. Thanks, and until next time!